Welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled to have you here today because we're going to completely shatter a very common, very outdated myth in the business world. For far too long, companies have looked at cybersecurity as just a mandatory sunk cost, something you simply have to pay for, kind of a necessary evil, right? Just to keep the lights on and keep the regulators off your back. But what if I told you that in today's hyper-connected digital ecosystem, cybersecurity is actually a massive revenue generator? Okay, let's dive into this. $1.2 million. We are not talking about some abstract idea of risk mitigation or hypothetical cost avoidance here. We're talking about proactive security acting as a massive, tangible business enabler. When you shift your mindset, when you start looking at your IT infrastructure through the lens of real-world vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, or VAPT, you stop just defending your perimeter and you start actively protecting and driving real revenue.
So that brings us to the million-dollar question. Quite literally, how exactly does a cybersecurity test generate a $1.2 million return on investment? It's a provocative question, isn't it? Well, today we are going to unpack exactly how that happens. We're going to look at actual real-world case studies to uncover the direct, undeniable link between vulnerability assessments and bottom-line revenue protection. We'll look at the technical challenges, the strategic solutions, and most importantly, the financial outcomes.
Let's kick things off with what I like to call our first financial thriller of the day. Picture a neobanking startup holding a massive amount of highly sensitive data. They were moving incredibly fast, but right underneath their sleek app interface, a critical vulnerability was lurking, one that threatened to bring their entire operation to a catastrophic halt. The specific threat here? Well, it's called Broken Object Level Authorization, or BOLA for short. In simple terms, this is a highly dangerous API vulnerability where an attacker can essentially manipulate object IDs to get into unauthorized data. Imagine walking up to a bank teller, giving them an account number that completely isn't yours, and the teller just hands you the cash without even checking your ID. That is exactly what BOLA does in the digital world. And for this startup, this flaw risked exposing over 120,000 financial records, putting them on a direct crash course for massive regulatory violations with the RBI. And this brilliantly illustrates the transformation we're talking about. The challenge was that BOLA vulnerability, risking all those records and severe RBI penalties. The technical solution? They implemented resource-level authorization filters, cryptographic entity IDs, and strict rate limits. But the real magic happens in the outcome. By applying those specific fixes, the startup achieved 100% compliance with RBI Annex G rules. But even more critically, they actively blocked potential fraud worth a staggering $1.2 million. That right there is your ROI, a technical fix that directly rescued over $1 million.
But let's broaden our perspective for a second, because security isn't just about saving money from fraud. It is absolutely crucial for actively winning new enterprise revenue. When you're a B2B company, your security posture is basically your resume. If you can't prove you're secure, large enterprises simply won't sign on the dotted line. You'll lose the deal before you even get to pitch the product.
Take this HealthTech company's journey, for example. Their challenge: patient portals were accidentally exposing highly sensitive medical records because of misconfigured AWS buckets. Just a total nightmare scenario that threatens severe HIPAA penalties. But more than that, it was actively blocking a massive $450,000 annual recurring revenue enterprise deal. So the solution was decisive. They migrated files to private buckets, enforced short-lived sign cookies, and integrated OAuth 2. The outcome? Incredible speed. In just 14 days, they completely turned it around, passed their HIPAA and SOC 2 audits, and secured that $450,000 ARR contract. Security didn't just save them from fines, it literally closed the deal. We see a similar supercritical dynamic over in the SaaS space. There was a company dealing with multi-tenant database leakage. Because of some flawed SQL structures, tenant filters could actually be bypassed, risking cross-tenant data exposure. Imagine logging into your company's software and seeing your biggest competitor's private pipeline data. It's an instant trust killer. The solution here was applying row-level security, or RLS, on their PostgreSQL database and completely redefining their connection pool configurations. The outcome was preventing catastrophic telemetry leaks and fully restoring customer trust. And in the SaaS world, customer trust is your absolute most valuable currency.
So, we've seen the incredible financial victories and business enablement that come from proactive security. But to really, truly understand its value, we have to look at the dark side. What's really interesting here is the catastrophic financial and operational costs of ignoring these vulnerabilities.
The high cost of inaction isn't just a theoretical risk. It is a very harsh reality for organizations that treat security as an afterthought.
Just consider the sheer scale of global enterprises, like JPMorgan Chase. They possess this incredibly complex, multi-jurisdictional IT infrastructure with incredibly stringent regulatory requirements all over the world. They aren't just fending off lone hackers in basements, they are defending against highly sophisticated, state-sponsored threats. For them, a comprehensive VAPT strategy across multiple jurisdictions isn't a luxury. It is literally the only way to strengthen their defenses and maintain a compliant global posture against top-tier adversaries.
And let's look at what happens when the absolute worst-case scenario actually strikes, like with the devastating AIIMS Delhi ransomware incident. Day 1, a phishing attack successfully encrypts 1.3 terabytes of critical hospital data. Think about that sheer volume of sensitive medical information locked away. Then, days 2 through 20, 21 days of agonizing downtime. You had medical professionals forced to revert to manual, pen and paper data entry just to keep patients alive. It wasn't until day 21 that immutable, offline backups finally saved critical operations. Remember our HealthTech company from earlier. They achieved a total compliance victory in just 14 days. Contrast that with 21 days of total operational chaos. It's a stark reminder of exactly why proactive disaster recovery planning is non-negotiable.
So what are the overarching lessons we can draw from these financial thrillers and these, frankly, terrifying outages? How do we take these case studies and turn them into an actionable roadmap for our own organizations? Because ultimately, it all boils down to business resilience. Your ability to not just survive a digital threat, but to thrive and securely grow your business.
Let's run through these vital takeaways real quick. First, regular VAPT ensures vulnerabilities are identified before attackers can exploit them. It's all about being proactive, not reactive. Second, compliance readiness, like HIPAA, RBI, and SOC 2, is absolutely critical for securing large contracts. It's your ticket to the enterprise table. Third, vendor risk management is essential. You have to prevent supply chain attacks coming through the partners you work with. Fourth, just as we saw with AIIMS, immutable backups remain your ultimate, final safeguard against ransomware. And finally, customer trust is directly tied to your proactive security measures. It is the very foundation of your reputation.
Okay, so how do you actually execute this paradigm shift? How do you move from treating security as an annoying technical vulnerability fix to leveraging it for real, robust business resilience? Well, this is where partnering with true experts becomes absolutely essential. And that brings us to Rasta Infotech, a premier partner that's uniquely capable of guiding organizations through this exact transformation.
Rasta Infotech brings over 20 years of deep expertise in penetration testing, compliance audits, and cybersecurity consulting. They don't just hand you some out-of-the-box software. They provide end-to-end, tailored VAPT solutions specifically designed for FinTech, HealthTech, SaaS, and enterprise clients. They have an incredible, proven track record in risk mitigation and compliance readiness. But here's what really sets them apart. They integrate SEO-optimized knowledge sharing and CCGC content frameworks into their approach, which means they not only secure your IT infrastructure, but they actually enhance your digital visibility. So your brand becomes both completely secure and highly discoverable. It's a game changer.
I want to conclude this explainer with a powerful thought. Vulnerability assessment is not just a technical exercise, it's a business enabler. From blocking a $1.2 million fraud attempt in FinTech, to saving a $450,000 enterprise deal, to preventing a 21-day hospital shutdown, the evidence is absolutely clear. Security investments deliver measurable ROI. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to chew on. Is your current security posture just a sunk cost sitting idle on a ledger, or is it a strategic investment actively generating your next major business win? Thank you so much for joining me to explore this vital topic. Catch you next time.